Greetings, Zimbabwe, and welcome to Zimbabwe Daily, a platform that brings you news, information, and everything that's trending in Zimbabwe. My name is Yvonne Muchaka, and welcome to this Behind the Mic program brought to you in partnership with the PADA platform. We are talking gender stereotypes to create safe spaces for women. I'm going to allow my guests to introduce themselves shortly after this short break. All right, so today to help me dig deeper into this subject, I have three ladies joining me online. So I'm going to ask you ladies if you can put on your video and just introduce yourself. So you're going to see your face on the face of the stream, and then you just go ahead and introduce yourself. Beatrice.
Okay, thank you so much, Yvonne. My name is Beatrice Ugandan. I'm from Deaf Women Included, and it's nice to be here. And I thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Beatrice. Over to you. Kristen. Christine, you may want to unmute yourself and then speak to us. Christine? Okay, over to you, Karen. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning. My name is Karen Mukwasi. I'm the director of the PADA platform. Good morning, Yvonne. Thank you for.
Okay, thank you so much for being here, Karen. I see that one of our guests' line just dropped, but we hope she'll be able to join us. We are trying to have this conversation right now so that we are able to dissect what the issues really are when it comes to gender and gender stereotyping. So I'm going to ask you, Karen, to break it down for us. What are we talking about today? You may want to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Yvonne. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So, when we're talking about gender stereotypes, we're talking about the beliefs, about the characteristics of males and females that are rooted, sometimes rooted in our culture, they're rooted in society, they're rooted even in our systems. And it's usually because of the gender roles that are fulfilled by males and females. And then the stereotypes, they are notions, but they end up becoming like, those are the actual characteristics of women, and those are the actual characteristics of men. This is how men behave. This is how men are expected to behave in a certain way. I think that that is what we mean when we talk about gender stereotypes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. I see Christine, you're back. Can you please introduce yourself, Karen? Christine, sorry.
Hello, how are you, listeners? How are you, viewers? I'm Christine Kayumba, the Vice President of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine Kayumba from the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Association. As you have heard, we are challenging stereotypes to create safe spaces for women and girls. So I think Karen has given us a proper introduction to what we are talking about, because when it comes to gender, it's merely socially attributable roles that male and females play in society. It is nothing to do with sex. It has everything to do with what role you play in society. So I'll come to you, Beatrice. I know that you are representing the disability sector, you're an advocate in that area, and I just want to talk about the stereotypes that affect women with disabilities. What is it that you have experienced? What is it that you have noticed? And how can we deal with that? Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. So, women and girls with disabilities, they often face a number of stereotypes, and these usually negatively affect them. For example, women and girls with disabilities are said to be asexual. They are said to be said that they don't have feelings because they have disabilities. So this is just a generalized view about women and girls with disabilities. It's oversimplified, and sometimes we are saying it's over exaggerated. These are stereotypes. So if people say women with girls are or women and girls with disabilities are asexual, meaning to say that they are not supposed to indulge in sex, they are not supposed to maybe have the sex or reproductive health rights services because they are said to be asexual. But is this true? Women and girls with disabilities also have feelings. They also want to indulge in sex. They also want to to experience whatever that we experience as other people without disabilities. So this has negatively affected them in such a way that even if they try to access other services that are meant for other people who don't have disabilities, the services are not accessible. They don't have sign language interpreters there. They don't have ramps there. They don't have a number of things. So the services end up being accessible for these women with disabilities. And this have affected also their participation in developmental issues, electoral issues, economic issues, political issues, because the services and everything available there is not accessible for women with disabilities. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. You raised some very critical issues. Indeed, that a lot of people in society who feel that they are better than the other will always overlook issues to do with giving access to people with disabilities to different services, including medical services, healthcare services. So when it comes to Beatrice, I just want you to enlighten me a little bit. When it comes to SRHR issues, how are women and girls with disabilities being treated for the benefit of some of our viewers?
Okay, thank you so much. So, for example, number one, they don't have access to the services. Of course, some service providers, we want to compliment them, they are trying, but there is no privacy. For example, let me give you a good example. For example, a deaf person happen to visit or maybe want to access any other services that is related to SRHR, sexual reproductive health and rights, right? So the person arrives at a certain institution, and there they don't have a sign language interpreter. Maybe the person wants to be screened for an STI, or maybe to tell that the person has been violenced, is facing a number of issues at home, is being sexually abused by the parents or maybe caregivers. What will happen there is the first person will not understand what the person is trying to say. So he or she will call another person, can you please come and try to hear what this person is saying? And then the other person still will not understand those. So they end up being a group facing one person with a disability who is deaf, trying to explain her private issues to the counselor or to the nurse. So number one, there is no issue of privacy. Sometimes they want to access the services, there is no privacy. So they end up being able to access those services. And sometimes they end up not reporting some cases even to the police officers or to some others, because they fear that they might be victimized, or they might be looked down upon, or they might even be left out because the services are not accessible and there is no confidential issues or privacy.
Thank you so much, Beatrice, for giving light to those issues. Indeed, if now there's supposed to be confidentiality between a patient and their doctor, and there are 10 people in the room trying to comprehend what one person is saying, it creates challenges. And these are some of the issues that we are trying to deal with right here on this platform as we advocate for opportunities, as we advocate for spaces that are safe for women. Now, I want to come to you, Christine. I hope you can hear me, Christine Kayumba. I want you to talk about the stereotypes within the education sector, especially your experiences with women in rural communities working as teachers.
Okay, thank you. Hello, can you hear me, Yvonne?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Looking at how female teachers are being stereotyped, when we look at teachers in general, you find out that most teachers, most numbers, it comprises of female teachers. So in the education sector, quite a number are female teachers. But when you look at the chances for promotions, the female teachers, they are not being promoted, but having same qualifications with our male counterparts. You see, just to look at how many head teachers that we have in Zimbabwe. I don't have quite a number, but you look at it, we have male head teachers, a lot of them, but we have many female teachers who are in the profession, but they are not considered for promotion. And also, I've looked at the number of DSIs. These are district schools inspectors. Only a few number are females. So when I look at it, I wonder if females are not upgrading themselves to be accorded or the promotion to become head teachers. You also look at how female teachers are being treated when leave issues are being laws on leave issues. You see, you're only allowed to have 4 children which are paid on maternity leave, you see. So looking at all these things, you see, we still have a long way to go in as far as this stereotype is concerned. Looking at even in the school setup, the girls, we just want to thank the government for awarding scholarship for the STEM programs for the students who would have excelled. But looking at the number of girls who qualify for the STEM program, it's now increasing. But long back, you'd find girls going for arts subjects. People would say girls, they do arts. If you want to ask something about literature or about Shona, just ask the girls. And the boys, they are good at mathematics. So we would want to challenge that, Yvonne, so that in the school setup, we have girls who are enrolled at NAST University, at Chinoi Technology, quite a number, so that there will be an improvement on that.
Okay, Christine, thank you so much. Are you still speaking?
Okay, you can go ahead.
All right. So when we look at the education sector, I know you are also an activist, Christine. When you look at yourself and the way women and girls are being treated overall, how do you think that government should then deal with such issues? How do you think policymakers should deal with these stereotypes in order for us to see a marked improvement in terms of participation of women and girls in the education sector?
Okay, looking at how females participating in as far as activism is concerned. I was called when I don't know, they heard that I'm an activist. A lot of news just circulated on the WhatsApp. What is it that you are doing? This is men's business. And then I said, how come is it men's business when I'm the one who's affected? I'm the one who's having a low salary. I'm the one who's facing difficulties. I'm a widow. I can't send my children to school. Yes, females, they need to take up action also, and the government should urge also females to take part in their respective areas. But you find out that most females, they are demoralized. They still hold to I don't know which theory they subscribe to, but I just feel that the government should encourage, even our employer should encourage us to stand for our rights, not that this is men's business. And you find that female teachers, they are not active. They are not active in as far as activism or fighting for their rights. But we are the people who suffer most, and we are the people who comprise a large number of the teachers in the ministry. So if we keep quiet, then nothing will change, nothing will happen to us, because they talk of numbers. The larger the numbers, the louder the voices, you see. So I would urge female teachers to also take part in advocating for our rights.
Thank you so much, Christine. I see that Helen, is that you? Please come through, introduce yourself, and welcome to the platform where, as women, we support each other and we grow together. Please introduce yourself. I see you've just joined. You may want to unmute your mic. All right, so probably the network issue, but Helen is coming through from Women's Global. She's a project manager there. Hopefully she can hear me and she'll be able to share with us her own experiences within the field. Now, Karen, you've heard from Beatrice, you've heard from Christine, and maybe you can also come through to just tell us your experiences in relation to the conversations that you've been having with women from different sectors. How has the entertainment side of business been affected by the so-called stereotypes? What have you heard about stereotypes in that sector?
Thank you so much, Yvonne. When I look at the entertainment sector, I think the entertainment sector has been the biggest culprit when it comes to gender stereotyping, because there's the objectification of women. That is just something that we've struggled with for a very long time. You go to just even look at just advertisements. The women are there regarded, maybe you see this woman, she's lying on the bonnet of a car with some liquid, she's she's almost naked, and she's got this liquid that's flowing down her body. And then you look at what they're advertising a drink. And so then you start thinking, did you need to have a naked woman to advertise a drink? And then they simply say, oh, but sex sells. They advertise cigarettes with images of half naked women. So already when you present a woman as a stereotype, or as that kind of stereotype, as sexual object, that also, dehumanizes them in a way. And, then men regard them as sexual objects. And that then means that, they are there to provide sex. And so if they fail to provide the sex, then that's where we find sexual assault, sexual harassment, because women have been projected as objects of sex for a very long time. And we look at the kind of stereotyping that's also happening with entertainment, where we still have these, it's, you look at film, you can't even read books, where we have the stereotype of the perfect woman. That is the woman whose primary role is in the home. So that's the woman who is a follower. Kristen said something about being in a profession where that is female dominated but led by men. It is that stereotype that says that men are the leaders and women should be the followers. So you can have three men in a group and then have seven women, which is the 70 to 30 ratio. But then you find the three men leading. Why? Because the stereotype has been perpetuated over and over again, that men should lead. And we read the books where we see this man who's the CEO. We watch the films where it's dominated by the male CEOs. We've got these stereotypes of women who cannot work together, women who hate each other, who do not uplift each other. And this translates into our everyday living. It translates into how we are treated out there. Because when you fail to fulfill your primary role in the home, as it is detected by this gender stereotype, then you become a bad woman. And then you are subjected to violence within your home because you're not towing the line. When you are not fulfilling your role as a sex object, you're subjected to harassment within the workplace, because you're a sex object, and then you're a professional second. We can go on and on, even with the STEM that Christine referred to. You find all these male computer programmers, male engineers. That's the images that our children are consuming right now. And so the entertainment industry really plays a role here in terms of music, film, even the marketing that is generated within the entertainment industry. I think there's need to really start, challenging these stereotypes. Because if we challenge these stereotypes in media, in entertainment, then it is going to translate to our lived environment. Because when we then have the woman as the primary role is in the home, the moment you venture out into the public space, you are regarded as someone who's out of place. So when you're out of place, then even your safety is compromised. You find even our police coming up with campaigns like Operation Chipo Chirorwa. Because what is the stereotype that they understand is that the woman should be at home, with her role as the mother and the wife. So Operation Chipo Chirorwa is telling women to get off the streets and get into the home. The women who are not in the streets, vana chipo vachona, then they are subject to abuse because they are stereotyped in a certain way. They are bad women, they are women who are out of place. So the public place becomes even a challenging space for women, which is really challenging to the participation of women in every public space that we can talk about. Thank you, Yvonne.
Much, Karen, for raising those issues. I think I'll just summarize some of the major issues that I captured from what you spoke about. You talked about the stereotype of a woman as a sexual object, and this is opening us to abuse, in every aspect of our work. You talked about a stereotype of a perfect woman being a housewife, leading to some women being abused and not allowed to express themselves in public. We also talk of a stereotype of women as followers and men as leaders. So it exposes our women, especially when it comes to political participation. How do I participate and be a president, for example, when there are male figures in my party? So it is such scenarios and such stereotypes that you are saying we need to challenge as women, even in terms of our appreciation of the media. But I want to ask this question, Karen, and any one of you may want to come through. Who is perpetuating these stereotypes? Who is perpetuating these stereotypes? And because unless we know who, we won't know how to stop it. So I don't know who will take on this question, but yeah, who is perpetuating these stereotypes? Beatrice, are you there?
Yes, I am there. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay, thank you, Yvonne. So, from the disability sector, uh, most of the stereotypes are perpetuated by the society and largely us people who do not have disabilities. So this is a kind of a bit different from other stereotypes that are targeted for women in particular, other than women with disabilities. So there are persons without disabilities. There are traditional leaders. So with traditional leaders, they kind of uphold their cultural beliefs, and some of the perceptions and norms that they used to believe about persons with disabilities are actually wrong. And at the end of the day, they still preach the same gospel in their cultural setups and in their other rural setups. They still preach the same gospels about the ills of persons with disabilities, like the ills of associating with persons with disabilities. For example, let me give you an example. Like in our cultural setup, if you are a pregnant woman, if you continue to stare at a woman with a disability, the elderly will say, please don't continue to stare at her or him, that person with the disabilities, because maybe you might be a child with a disability. So if you stare at a person with a disability, to stop that, kindly maybe spit on your stomach so that you will not be the child with a disability with the same as the person you have stared. So you see, these are our cultural beliefs. These are stereotypes, because we are saying stereotypes are just generalized beliefs about a certain group of people, which are sometimes and mostly untrue. So you see, at the end of the day, people will not want to associate with persons with disabilities. People will not want to connect with persons with disabilities, because it is believed that. Another stereotype also, for example, these are perpetuated by other traditional leaders who specifically maybe are not leaders in our communities, but leaders in the healing sector, the traditional healing sector, like the traditional healers and the ngangas and the amaporofiters. So if you go to a prophet, sometimes it is believed that if you happen to rape a woman with a disability, the HIV might go away, or you might be cured. So you see, these are the persons who are perpetuating these stereotypes, because they are preaching about that. And right now we are having more and more young girls with disabilities who are being raped, who are being sexually violated, sexually abused by men who are HIV positive, because it has been instilled in them that if you rape a person with a disability, the HIV will go away or you will be cured. So you see, and so these are traditional leaders in the communities, traditional leaders in the healing sectors, and us people without disabilities who do not have the awareness and the knowledge about disability rights and disability inclusion. So sometimes even us, like for example, health providers, service providers, or any other service providers. For example, if a person with a disability comes at their institution, maybe she wants to access maybe STI screening services or any other sexual reproductive health rights, and they will say, you have already indulged in sex. How? But you are in a wheelchair. How are you doing that? Already they are stereotyping me because I have a disability. So me being in a wheelchair, does it mean that I cannot indulge in sex? Me being blind, does it mean that I cannot even have sex with my partner? Or does it mean that I am supposed to behave differently from other people who are not blind? There are still sex workers who are blind. There are still other people who misbehave, children who misbehave, like they have disabilities, but still they have the same behaviors with other people without disabilities. So like the discussion is with persons with disabilities kind of different, because not only patriarchy is perpetuating this, not only we, but even us persons with disabilities because we do not have the awareness and the rightful information about persons with disability and disability rights. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for joining us. We are coming to you live from Zimbabwe Daily. This is a program brought to you by Pada platform, a platform that looks at women and girls' rights. And now we want to, I asked this question to Beatrice, and thank you so much for elaborating there that healthcare providers, service providers, those people without disabilities are the ones who carry through these stereotypes against people with disabilities. And this has to stop somehow. I want to come to you, Karen. You spoke about stereotypes within the entertainment and arts industry, the issue of novels that speak to the CEOs being male, the entertainment space where videos or musical videos are made and women are objectified, you know, they appear naked or half naked, they're just wearing bikinis or something. And you see the gentlemen in the videos, they'll be well dressed. Now, who is perpetuating these stereotypes, Karen, in your view? Because if I don't want to appear in any video naked, why should I be made to? And can't we as women just stand together and say, if you want to use us as such, then we're not going to be part of whatever it is that you're trying to produce? Karen.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. I think, when you look at the issue of, perpetuation of stereotypes, I think it goes back to where we are coming from. We go, how are we raising our children? You find that in most families, children are raised with these stereotypes. You go to to our communities, already there's branding of certain people with certain jobs in certain ways. You go to religion, the branding goes on and on. And then so you find that sometimes it's also about women, when we talk about the entertainment of industry, we're also talking about women not being the authors of this entertainment. Yes, they come in as, the actresses, they come in as the players, but then they are not the ones who are producing this entertainment. So as long as we don't get this kind, getting the participation, if the participation of women does not increase, then we'll continue. Because when you talk to female dancers, that's what's putting food on their tables, because sex sells. That is, so as long as those are the jobs that are there. Unfortunately, because we are living in a very difficult economic space, then you find that women will still go. And then there's also a lot of manipulation and exploitation that goes on these sets, because sometimes you find that these very young girls who, they're not even making very informed decisions yet. Because I've talked to a lot of women who have participated in some of these videos maybe years ago, and they'll be saying, I would not do it now, but then I did it because I felt it would give me a break. And I'd talked to the producer, and they said, you can only do this one, and then the next one you can have your role will be more solid. Even look at when you watch documentaries about maybe some young women who get into the pornographic industry. Sometimes you find them going into a studio as, they go into a photography studio, they want to be photographed, and then he says, no, just take it off a little bit. And then by the time you're done there, he's managed to get all your clothes off. And then they convince you that, no, this is just to advertise. Next time you'll be doing shoots for bigger magazines. So there's a lot of manipulation and exploitation. And then also we also have to admit that there are also women who are empowered also in that space, who feel that, no, you know what, this is who I want to be, this is the image that I have. And they are doing it because they're coming from an informed position. We also do not have to stereotype them, and because they're appearing in entertainment as certain figures, then we see them on the street and we assume that who they are in entertainment is who they are on the street. Because of that, again, we are now talking about that their space is no longer safe again, because they are seen on a billboard, and then every man thinks that, oh no, but they were selling sex on a billboard, which means, they were inviting us to come and get sex, which also then makes these women vulnerable. So I think we really need to get to a point where we look at how are these contracts being reached? Are they even signing contracts? What is really happening behind the scenes? I think it's time to really interrogate those behind the scenes spaces to see just how empowered are these so-called video vixens. What are the means of persuasion? Are they coming from a really informed point? And also, it's also a vicious circle. Like I'm saying, young women, they grow up watching, what are they watching on TV? They're watching all these American videos that are where they see all these girls, they're living these yacht lives and dancing around on yachts, but this is just a video. And then they start, they start also thinking that's what these are notions of beauty. Also, that's what a beautiful woman looks like. It's the woman who appears on Drake's video. It's the woman who appears on so and so's video, because that's the entertainment that our children consume. So when we go back, we also not even want to be very sure about what kind of media are our young women consuming, so that when they get to a certain point, they also make their very informed choices, where their notions of beauty are not always, determined by media, because not all media is positive. A lot of it has been
Right.
very harmful and has really affected how have affected the space for our girl child.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. You speak well on these issues, but I want to raise questions that some of our viewers have raised around the most controversial issue that is happening now, and that's the issue of marriage Wenga. And people are saying that women's organizations, they are mum when this is happening. And I don't know if you can actually address that issue in terms of what can organizations do when we see the weaponization of the law to settle domestic cases happens, like what we are seeing right now playing out around Mary Chiwenga's issue. And I know that a lot of people have been doting around the issue itself. I don't know if you can come through and maybe explain to us why why there is a seemingly deathly silence within the civic space around that issue that I've just mentioned.
Okay, maybe just now. But I know female activists, a lot of them have not been silent. They have tried to speak out using the different platforms that are there. I know from some of the spaces where I belong, I know there have been some interventions that have been made. There was an appeal to I know an organization that appealed directly to the vice president himself. There was an appeal that actually went there. It was a document that was crafted and it was taken into that space, and I don't think there were any results. So it's not like everyone is silent. I know there are things that are going on behind the scenes, but we also have to be honest. We are at a time where the law is also being weaponized to destroy the actual existence of the civic space. So also, you have to also appreciate that people are trading with caution, because the PVO bill is hanging over everyone's head. We don't even know whether 12 months from now these organizations will even exist, because it's been going on, and the message is very clear that PVOs, the civil society organizations should not exist. They are seen as a threat by duty bearers. So I think that is also already. This is already. It's also, when you look at Mary's issue, I would say it's also marking the shrinking of the civic space, with the space for civic engagement, because there's the people are intimidated and people are afraid, and you can't really blame people, even women, because we've been talking about this space, the public space being very volatile for women, where women are already, they're already regarded as sex objects. So if you're a woman who's gone, who's maybe, who's been regarded as going offside, we've seen that women have been sexually assaulted simply for raising their voices. We have seen that. We have seen female politicians being, say their sexuality being used against them to show, no, but you're a woman who just subdue you, who sexual assault you. So this is the environment that we're living in. And when we talk about creating safe spaces for women, what I would like is to see a Zimbabwe where it's safe for everyone who wants to speak up for Mary to speak, and know that there will even be freedom after you speak, and to speak not only on social media, but to be able to go into the public space and be heard. But it's the reality that, going into any public space to be heard is a risk. So I'm not speaking for organizations, but I'm just trying to say, when I look at it, those are some of the issues that I've noted. You write something about Mary on your social media, people are even reluctant to share,
Hmm.
reluctant to comment. So I really think people are afraid of whatever repercussions will be then, because people have seen what has been happening to the women who've been daring to speak out. We've seen what happened to the three young women from the formerly MDC, who are now Triple C. We've seen what happened to Wongai Tome, who's also from that party as well. We've seen it, and everyone has been looking, and the message is very clear. You women need to keep quiet and stay in your corner, or we are coming after you. So when we are talking about safe spaces, we want also our government to address that women can be free to participate as activists, women can be free to participate as politicians without fearing for their physical safety, without fearing that their sexuality is going to be violated at some sport. Because no woman wants to be sexually violated. No one wants to see that, and you never really get over it. So I think we need to maybe delve deeper into these issues and saying, why has this space so toxic for the voices of women?
Awesome, Karen. Thank you. I think you've adequately responded to that issue, and I hope all of you who have been asking this question and saying why women's organizations quiet, you have been answered there. Now, I want to ask Beatrice, because this question is also coming from one of our viewers. It says, some women in power would rather work with men than women. How can society help women when women hurt each other? How does society help women when the women are the ones that are hurting each other?
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes the notion seems to be true somehow, because not only men are perpetuating some of these stereotypes, and even us or other women in power also, they are perpetuating these stereotypes. So sometimes men tend to actually I'd want to assist women, but it is said that women hate each other. It's true, but I think the only option, or the way forward, is also maybe try to preach the gospel of love, advocates for other safe spaces, because women also want to be in some of the spaces that they are forbidden by other women to be in, and they don't feel free to go in those spaces. But what we are saying is, let's advocate for those spaces. Let's advocate for free spaces without violence, without hating each other, so that we can all be safe.
Over to you, Christina. Sorry about that. We seem to be having a technical issue. Kristen, can you come in and respond to these issues that some of our viewers are raising? The issue to do with okay, technical glitches there. Christine, I want you to come in and talk to us about the behavior of female of females in the education sector? How are you handling these power struggles? It seems like women prefer to work with men. What is your take on that?
Okay. I think maybe in the education sector, it's a bit different. I think women are now taking up leadership roles also. So it's different in the education sector. I think if even if we look at other schools which have female head teachers, they are doing well, and also there is development at the schools. But I would like to urge the female teachers to also upgrade themselves, to enroll in degree programs, in master's programs, in PhDs, so that they also eye for higher posts, that of the DSIs, that of the even being head teachers. It's only that women, we sometimes we don't want responsibilities. That is why we don't want to apply even for posts. But Yvonne, I would like to talk about how the community views the female teachers. I think the community, our community, especially the rural community, they look down upon the female teachers. If a female teacher is deployed as a head at a rural school, the community can reject or pass negative comments, saying matiunzira mukadzi kunoku, you see. So they feel that maybe for total control of a school, they have to be a male, or for total discipline at a school, they have to be a male figure as a head teacher. This is different, Yvonne. Even females, they have the guys, they have the that power that the male possesses. So I would like to urge the community
Christine, are you still there? We can no longer hear you. Okay, we seem to have lost Christine there. But yes, those are the issues that we continue to raise. How do we deal with gender stereotypes in order for us
leaders.
to... Okay. Right, we seem to be having network challenges. Christine? Christine, can you still hear me? All right, we have lost her completely offline right now. All right, so these are the issues, gender stereotypes to create safe spaces for women and girls. How can we create these safe spaces when we have got so much that we need to do as a society? Remember that family is the primary socialization agent for any society. So everything that we are training our children in the home, everything that we have been trained in the home is what we perpetuate outside. And we need to begin to work on that in order for us to get to a generation that does not look at your sex to determine what you can do. I will just ask Beatrice to give me her parting shot as we come to the end of this conversation. Over to you, Beatrice. You may want to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry, can you please repeat the question? I think I lost you somewhere.
Okay, I was saying that I need to just hear your parting short as we conclude this conversation. Yes, indeed, we realize that as a family, we need to start socializing our boys and girls towards the society that we want to see that doesn't carry the stereotypes. But I just want to hear your parting short as we come to the conclusion of this conversation.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. So, besides primary socialization in the home, I think it is also important to continue educating. Education, knowledge is power. So, let's continue fighting this battle, educating people, awareness raising about the ills of gender stereotyping, how it is negatively affecting our communities, how it is negatively affecting women. Let's do campaigns. Let's talk about it on every platform that is available to us, online platforms, formal platforms, informal platforms. Let's talk about these issues. Let's talk about gender stereotyping. Let's also advocate, continue advocating for gender equality, for spaces that are safe for and even women with disabilities. And also from my side, representing women and girls with disabilities. Let's all try to embrace disability inclusion. Let's all try to have some sense and some acknowledgement of disability rights, our organizations, because sometimes women and girls with disabilities look at our organizations as safe spaces where they feel free to share and even talk about their issues. But how can they access our services if our services are not accessible to persons with disabilities? So let's learn sign language. Let's try to have an appreciation of how to work with women and girls with disabilities, so that we even create women rights organizations, or maybe human rights organizations and safe spaces that are accessible to persons with disabilities. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you so much, Beatrice, for the clarity. And over to you, Karen. What do you choose to challenge as we close this conversation? You may want to unmute yourself, Karen. Karen, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, can you repeat your question? I think my network dropped off for a minute there.
Okay, I said as we conclude our conversation, what do you choose to challenge?
I think as we conclude, what I choose to challenge is also the issue that, gender stereotypes harm women alone. They also harm men. So I think it's not up to women to be alone in challenging the stereotypes. I think we need to get to a place where we all, as men and women, start challenging the harmful practices in our society, start challenging these stereotypes, where because masculinity has been very toxic for men simply because of these gender stereotypes, where men are supposed to be this type of person, and when they fail to be that type of person, it also harms them. So to only say, women's, even, the issue of women's rights, those are human rights. So even when we're talking about the issues like the issues of Mary Chiwenga and everything, let's not say this is supposed to be taken care of by the women because they are women's issues. They are human rights issues, and we have to get to a place where men and women can work together, and we can, if we work together, then I really believe that we'll get to a place where we'll achieve this gender equality, where we'll achieve this kind of tolerance, where we'll achieve everything that we've been talking about for ages. And it seems like it's the war between men and women. It's not really a war between men and women. It's just, the effort to make the world a better place and a safer place for everyone. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much, Beatrice. And thank you, Christine, for coming through to the platform to talk challenging gender stereotypes to create safe spaces for women and girls. In 2022, the International Women's Day theme was choose to challenge, break the bias. We need to start to break this bias so that we work towards creating this safe space for women and girls. Indeed, we want to challenge the stereotypes. It is not the responsibility of women alone to raise their voices. It is also the responsibility of the male side of the things to also have a say in what is going on and what is happening. We need to challenge these stereotypes by raising our sons and our girls right. Thank you so much, Zimbabwe, for joining us on this conversation that was made possible by the PADA platform. Before we go, I just want to read this comment from Michelle. And she says, I agree with Beatrice. Let's have persons with disability in mind. Let's have people with disability in mind when we come up with these programs. Thank you so much, Zimbabwe, for joining us on Zimbabwe Daily. It was a pleasure to have you. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of day.